to see you. If you are new here, assalamu alaikum, merry meet, and welcome back to your daily dose of DragonFaether live. I'm so excited. It's been so long since I've been live, and we have to just talk about the truth, guys. We're gonna talk about Laserium tonight, and it's gonna be kind of a heavy topic because there's a reason why I've never talked about it before. Okay, so we're going to be as gentle as we can when sharing this story for everybody involved and everybody no longer with us. And this like live stream is dedicated to Ivan Dreyer, loving memory for him. And this is the tale of, well, how Laserium changed my life, and also the story of how Laserium, laser technology, as well as the founder Ivan Dreyer, inspired my craft, and truly his philosophy changed my life, perspective, and the trajectory of my career. So I would love to share that with you guys. So before we get started, I do have some sneak peeks for you guys, okay? So it's very exciting, but we're going to be sharing some artifacts, some vintage artifacts today from Laserium. We have some vintage laser art here. So this, we're showing YouTube first, but you guys can see the tag here. This one is called Solar Wind. I love it so much. And this is their like little vintage label here. And then it has on the back just like a little blip of what it is. So let's see what it says. It says laser graphics ready for hanging, framing, curiosity peaking. How cute. Laserium, the world's only cosmic laser concert, is bringing exciting new entertainment to planetariums and domed theaters around the world. A laserist choreographs a powerful krypton laser to produce brilliant, expanding images in the purest colors ever seen. Seemingly third-dimensional laser rainbows float and dance to music under a star-filled sky. A startling, memorable experience. And then it says, Laserium is a trademark of Laser Images Incorporated. 1976, Laser Images Incorporated. Photographed by Charles McDonald. That is incredible. I can't believe I found these while moving like some of my stuff out of my mom's house. So it's so exciting, and you're gonna want to stay tuned till a little bit later in the stream because we're going to be showing other images. We have more different types of images, as well as some vintage postcards from laserists who worked at Laserium, if you're interested in just like the vintage aspect of it, because I know it's really fun to talk about. But anyway, I hope you guys are all doing very well. We have, OMG, I need a print. I wish they still had them. The ones that I have left might be the only ones left. The rest of them just kind of disappeared after Ivan passed away. It's very sad, but we're gonna talk about that story. So I'm drinking some tea. Okay, you're definitely gonna want some tea for tonight's stream. Grab a snack, hang out. No idea how long we're gonna be here, but just however long it takes to tell the story. So it all started with my parents' first date at Laserium. I know, that's crazy, right? But my mom and dad had a date at Griffith Observatory Laserium show, and I wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Laserium, which is kind of crazy to think about. But so my dad, for those of you guys who don't know, was the chief laserist at Laserium during its operation under Ivan Dreyer, and in that process I was growing up, and during that time I was like the only child who truly like grew up there a little bit. Especially towards the end operations after they stopped doing shows in Griffith Observatory in 2002. They went to do their Van Nuys operations, which is where these, remember I showed you this a little bit earlier, right? So on the back here, it says a trademark of Laser Images Inc., 6911 Havenhurst Avenue, Van Nuys, California, 91406. This is no longer the Laserium address where we were actually doing shows. but I'm able to share that because it's public information. People were able to like go on the website and buy tickets to see shows there. So it was basically like the warehouse was there. So they had like I'm just gonna give you guys some like background history about like Laserium before we jump into my time there. So the Laser Ink studio was basically a couple different rooms and shrank over time. So it first started out just being like a whole entire uh like building block, I guess. And there was like a whole entire side that was like essentially dedicated to laser shows after 2002. And there were a couple like different rooms for different things. And if you were there, you might remember coming to see shows there. But we had like the very front, there was like where the street was, you could walk in the door. And then there was like Ivan's office there, which I spent most of my childhood in there with him, like the way that I remember like asking him questions and looking through his like bookshelves and like playing with his prisms and his crystals and stuff. But that was like when I was really, really like little, like toddler, right? And then I like slowly grew up over time. And then if you kept going straight, after there was like I think 3 or 4 offices and a bathroom, then you had like a little like hallway and then a room that had the light dancer in it. And the light dancer was basically this piece of technology that had like it was like a floor pad and it looked like an octagon type of shape. It was like either hexagons or octagons, I don't remember, but it was made out of like different types of polygons, and there were sensors on it that used infrared lasers. And when you couldn't see the infrared lasers, right? Like our eyes can't see it. So when we put our hand over these sensors and scanners, because the beams go all the way up to the top, right? And it sensed you crossing the beam path, then they were programmed to basically trigger a light effect, a laser effect, or a digital like effect on the screen, right? So that's why it was called the light dancer, because every single time that you like would dance through it, you would like move your hands through it, the music would change and the visuals would change. And that is where like dancing with light and like visuals and music and crystals and stuff was like first part of my practice, right? So that's kind of where we started that. It was like really cool, right? So then after like that, there was like another hallway, and then there was like a huge studio room, which we called Studio A, I believe. And then there was like another back studio that had like a waterfall projector in it that was really cool. That's something that also people might have seen in the Hollywood and Vine shows. There was a waterfall screen. So because the water will catch the laser light, you just have like a waterfall and then you do the show on the water. Absolutely insane experience, by the way. It's so magical. Like all of the elements that go into play when it comes to laser shows is truly just magic and alchemy. So that's like why we're doing today's video, right? So then in the very back, there was like their operation room, right? And they had like just all sorts of tools and all sorts of materials where they built the circuit boards and the computers and fixed the laser technology and innovated like new lenses to use on the like lasers to change the effects and stuff. And it was very much like a experimentational type of thing. Hey Doom Kitty, what's up? Welcome back to your daily dose of DragonFaether. Welcome! I wanted to know about dragons. Are all dragons good, or are there also evil ones, or more spiritual or less spiritual ones? Well, the thing about dragons is that they're always going to be different depending on how you believe in them. So it just depends on what you believe, right? Like the way that I work with dragons now is completely different than the way that I worked with them throughout my lifetime. It's always just kind of like me playing with how I believe in things, like the dragons, to see how they express themselves in like my reality, if that makes sense. Let's see. Where was I? In the back of the like laser studio with like all of the like operation room, right? They were very dangerous to be in, okay? And it was kind of, when I was really young, like I wasn't really like allowed in there like supervision, but later on in my lifetime I ended up working at Laserium because again I had like grown up there. I obviously couldn't work there when I was like a toddler, but I have some vlogs on my channel from when I started like working there, but I digress. There was also like a staircase up to an attic, and then there was like one last room like on the side of the like area that like just changed from time to time. And over time, like the building shrank, like we sold like parts of the building to just other companies, and then eventually sold the whole block. So it was a wild time. That's kind of like the background of the history in terms of the location itself that I'll be referring to, because this is where I hosted like my very intimate like gatherings that we call laser baths, right? I have a video or two of them around here on my channel, and you can see all of the like details over on my Patreon. There's like a free resource list if you are interested in like deep diving it. And we're always adding more, you know what I mean? We're always adding more, so. But hey, what's up, Isinator? Welcome back to your daily dose of DragonFaether. We are talking about Laserium Dragon Alchemy and the kind of very sad and tragic tale of it. But it's a good one. It's bittersweet, right? So basically, I would go, because like my parents are divorced, right? So every weekend I would like spend time with my dad, and my dad is the laserist who is the chief laserist at Laserium. And so I would basically go with him to like work, right? Because like I didn't have like a babysitter when I spent time with him. So when he did laser shows on the weekends, I would go with him to Laserium, and I would just basically hang out in the back or around, right? For just, you know, the shows. And sorry to ask, but I have to. Have you heard about the purple? No, I haven't. But basically, have you heard about the purple dragons? Maybe I should ask you that. But basically, anyway, so I would go with him basically to work, right? And as a kid, I was like just a little like dragon nerd. Hey Kai, welcome to your daily dose of DragonFaether. And so I basically would just bring my Pokemon cards, my Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and my like Spyro game, like my video games, right? Love the Spyro series on DS, by the way, shout out to my childhood. But also just like, what's it called? I was obsessed with the Dragonology books, okay? It's unreal, actually. I have one. I do think I can reach it. So we always got one of these on hand because I have like so many of them, right? So brought one of these with me to my adventures, right? I'm gonna hold the book because it's good vibe. But basically, so yeah, dude, growing up there was wild and very like unrelatable, because while everybody was just kind of like going about like a normal life, like at school, like having their parents just do normal things and like literally they just do like sports or whatever, like just chilling. Meanwhile, I was spending my weekends sleeping on the floor or like in the like studio or like just wandering around Hollywood and Vine with my dad. And that is how I grew up. But there's a secret that they haven't told you, okay, about Laserium. And that is the type of people that it attracted, okay? So Laserium, as we see here on this like little vintage, on this vintage laser art, right? So we see here, it says the world's only cosmic laser concert, all right? And then there's also seemingly third dimensional laser rainbows float and dance to music under a star-filled sky. Okay, so the way that we did Laserium shows, there was a lot of layers that went into it, especially at Griffith Observatory. It was like when the craft was like premium and perfected, right? So with the domes, we would project stars, like the stars onto the ceiling, right? With a different type of like light projector. And then you would like put lasers on top of it and sometimes take the stars away to really make the lasers like, you know, very immersive. And if you want to see, there was a lot of just cosmic laser imagery from these like, from the laserists. They would, you know, do a lot of it live actually, but Like some of it, you know, was very mathematical in the sense that they had to like program a point on a laser like graph, right? So they had to make the laser move in a certain like line sequence from point to point in order to create like the images of like the octopus in Octopus's Garden, for example, from the Beatles show. So it was really cool, like growing up basically looking over my dad's shoulder and like messing with their analog board sometimes and just learning about how, you know, math and science can really connect with something like cosmic light, right? So this is truly what opened my mind to the possibilities. And something that I always remember I've been talking about is just the true origin essence of light. Like the light is the foundation of all reality. Like even the food we eat can be traced back to chlorophyll, which comes from photosynthesis, right? Photosynthesis. Okay, so like it's hello my friends, welcome to your daily dose of DragonFaether. But it's really like crazy because it's hard to talk about because of the kind of people that the show's attracted, and this is where it gets kind of complicated, right? But yeah, it's crazy because you know, it's just I've seen a lot of hard things in my time there, right? And there's a lot of it that doesn't need to be like shared and like shouldn't be, right? For the privacy of the people, right? But one thing that I can share with you guys is how Laserium exposed me to basically like the underground occult community of LA at the time, right? Because anybody who came there was very just open-minded and usually witchy, especially the people who worked there and were usually married to or with the like laser artists or the scientists who worked there or just like the people who were helping out with like the shows and stuff. So that's kind of where we get this kind of like, oh, Laserium has a huge like history of spirituality there too. And like many people would even express having like a spiritual experience during these shows because truthfully they were very immersive, okay? And if you've never seen laser light, I'm gonna be so honest with you guys, if you've never seen laser light in person ever in your life before, like up close, I promise you, you've never seen color before. Like that is how vibrant and rich and like three-dimensional this light is. Like I cannot even express to you when you're sitting in the dome and you see the laser light projected on the dome or in front of you, like how we did in Van Nuys or wherever you saw it over the world, right? Because the show toured the world, many countries, over 20 million people saw the shows, if not more, right? So this is the craziest part of the Laserium experience, is because the colors changed people's lives. It changed people's perspective of reality. It changed people's spiritual embodiment. It was something that allegedly was created for people who were hanging out with fun guys. I'm trying really hard to not get censored, guys. Fun guys, please understand what I'm saying. Lucy in the sky with diamonds. Can I be any more obvious? I don't know. Hopefully you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. But I wanted to kind of just emphasize in today's video how I see a lot of people talk about like elementals, elemental nature, like elemental magic, or even on a scientific level, like the periodic table of elements or like states of matter, right? But let me tell you something about light. without light, you wouldn't be able to experience anything. Yeah. You wouldn't be able to exist, which is why when we really observe light, the nature of it, and how it impacts our reality, it's truly undeniable, especially from a scientific point of view, right? That light is the original, like, transmutational force of creation, right? So, fun fact, I'm Muslim now. That is a conversation not right now. But what I will say, my experience changed since becoming Muslim, right? So now my perspective of like reality creation and stuff like that, there was like, when we call something like primordial, like what existed before creation, right? As Muslim, I still believe that is the origin point of creation, right? So in my eyes, there's only one uncreated creator, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when we're talking about light, like, I'm gonna remove the like religious kind of like language from it, but I'm just disclosing like my personal perspective and religious beliefs just for transparency, right? So here we go. So when we talk about light, right, and we talk about primordial like beings or primordial states before like any sort of creation existed in terms of like order, structure, life, right? So the catalyst for life and existence and all of that is light, okay? So the primordial situation, what we call prima materia in dragon alchemy, or just alchemy in general, is the unmade material substance that is like non-elemental. It's like the only unelement, right? The best way I could describe unelements or like non-elemental would be, have you guys seen, this is so embarrassing, have you guys seen Black Clover? The character Asta, I believe his name is Asta. It's been a while since I've watched this anime, but if you have basically seen this anime, this guy has like a unique power, if you will, which is like anti-magic. That is the best way I can describe prima materia. Okay, so when it comes to that, that is kind of how I see a lot of this primordial energy, but that is still like the foundation of creation, if that makes sense in my brain. And when I really started to understand the nature of light in a scientific sense, like the way that wavelengths of light work and the way that we mix colors of light to get different kinds of light, oh my gosh. In laser technology, you mix all the color beams together to get white light. When you think about that from a philosophical like lens, really changes your perspective, actually. Especially when it came to, there's just so much energy that's involved in like generating laser beams, right? So I'm gonna take a sip of this before we get into some more science, but cheers, guys. So basically, and when it comes to like the amount of energy that you have to generate to like power these like giant laser beams, right? The krypton lasers that we mentioned in the like little still. If you just are joining the chat, stay tuned for the end because we have some more laser images for you to look at, and including an artifact, a primary artifact from Laserium that is from some laserists, but we will cover up their names to keep their privacy, but I will show you the postcard because there's a cool date and stamp on there that I think you'd like to see. But here it says, where is it, my friends? Yeah, it says the laserist choreographs a powerful krypton laser to produce brilliant expanding images in the purest colors ever seen. Okay, so those giant lasers that were generating these very, very rich, vibrant, powerful laser beams required so much energy. And when you generate that kind of energy, there's a lot of risk, right? So this is why we have, like, you know, laser warning signs. If you just Google, you know, laser warning signs, you'll see like danger, laser radiation, avoid eye contact, right? Lots of things like that, or like hazardous, could like blow up. We've had a lot of scary experiences. And this is just kind of like part one of the video, right? So right now we're just kind of discussing the overall, what's the word? The overall basically history, kind of like how Laserium works, like background information. And you can totally find, if you're just joining, by the way, the whole video will be over on my YouTube channel, like archived after we're done if you want to watch back the whole thing. And we're just going to jump into this first, and then the middle will be about like dragon alchemy and just how it influenced my practice and stuff. And then at the very end, we'll talk about some paranormal experiences that we had in Laserium because, oh, and planetariums because, anyway. Okay, so I love talking about Laserium, but I will say, because there's just so much about it and I'm so like passionate about it, I do apologize if I jump from everywhere, all the place, all the time, because I'm a little neurodivergent, so please bear with me. But if you do have questions, let me know in the comments and I will definitely like do my best. Hey Aquarian Dragon, welcome back to your daily dose of DragonFaether. We are talking about Laserium, my friends. Hold up, light or illumination, and I believe you're revering creative interference. You're referring to creative interference. Yes, something like that. Like everybody kind of has their own perspective of what, like, you know, creator is or like origin is. Like I'm only just like describing my personal religious like perspective, but I will say the nature of light is a science-based study that when it comes to producing laser light, that is some crazy human technology right now. Like nothing that we really do these days could like even be possible without lasers. If you want to even know like how much you actually interact with lasers on a daily basis, when you go to the grocery store and you like, you know, scan, you know, items and you tap your like what's it called, your card, and you pay for something, you are using low-powered neon lasers and the holographic stuff on our IDs and just anything that's like really holographic 3D. Lasers are used to make that, right? And just so much laser technology goes into like building technology and, you know, operating in space and seeing space. Like they're like lasers are so fundamental, right? And this is kind of where Laserium started, and why Laserium is so like closely tied to planetariums is because the founder, Ivan Dreyer, he saw the rich color of the laser lights at the planetariums and he was like, I gotta bring that to the public. What a goat. He absolutely did that. And whenever you see lasers at festivals now, or whenever you see people messing with lasers online, whenever you see what's called a bliss light actually within Laserium, but if you see any sort of gadget that you can purchase that's like a projector of light with laser beams involved, where do you think that came from? That proto design came from Laserium. And for the ones that we were using in Laserium, you had to have a license in order to possess because of how strong the lasers were that were used to create them. So you can see what these bliss lights looked like in my vlogs about Laserium on my channel. I believe I have one that's called like I got a new job at Laserium or something like that, and you can see it. I'm just being a goofball as a kid. But that's kind of around the time that we were being very experimentational with our time there. Okay, so this is kind of the part that even I'm not too sure of how much I can talk about. Art is an explosion from Naruto show. Yeah, that's a good one. The biggest underrated laser is the sun. LMAO JK. That's funny, but actually lasers are incredibly unique in the sense of how they're created by humans, right? So what makes a laser is its monochromatic nature, as well as its lasing element used to create it, which is one of the noble gases, right? So krypton is the one that we have referenced directly in our little board here. But you can also get neon hydrogen lasers, I believe they're called, and then argon lasers. And those are the lasing mediums that we use. So this is really cool because, like, the most important point that I'm trying to make when it comes to the type of like dragon alchemy that we were like inventing at that time, just like me and like some people and some people who came to visit who just had very, like I said, experimentational like types of ideas and practices, and there's many things that I just unfortunately cannot say about the type of experimentational, but really hope you know what I'm talking about. They were very fun guys. Very fun guys. Anyway, so I digress on that part, but I will say the experimentational nature came from these people who were having access to these profound experiences with richly colored laser light. And humans in general are just very visually influenced, like creatures, especially like sound, when you like mix sound with that too, and you create like a bubble, right? We create a dark bubble to put you in and immerse you in this light experience, right? And when that happened, it was like a portal to space almost. It really felt that way. And this is where I first started seeing, what's the word? Occult imagery, right? Like, so basically sacred geometry too. And here is the picture that I mean about that. So let me just find the right one for you guys. So for those of you guys who don't know, like pentagrams, like the 5-pointed star, like here, like this one, right? So when you see like the 5-pointed star or like a 7-pointed star or any kind, right? It's called a star polygon when the edges cross each other, right? So normal polygons will not have their edges cross, right? So like a triangle, that's a polygon, but we're not crossing, right? I know this is some math right now, but that's what dragon alchemy is. It's a lot of math and shapes. At least in the way that like we did it in Laserium, okay? And like I said, it was very much a esoteric study because polygons and star polygons are just mathematical expressions, okay? So it was very popular to create star polygons and spin them around and make them rainbow colors, right? Yes, they were projecting geometric imagery, as well as generating like one of the most famous like shapes is the toroidal magnetospheric field. Ooh, I got it, I think. It's such a hard thing to say. But like I said, you can see those images. That particular one is pinned on my TikTok. If you are interested in on TikTok and want to see, it's just like one of the ones that's pinned. It's like how a dragon alchemist protects their energy, and it like shows a laserium image of this toroidal magnetospheric field as a shield. Okay, I think I got it. But this here is a 5-pointed star like the one I have on my arm and like the one we see in like witchcraft imagery, right? And so this says actual laser image from Laserium. The Cosmic Laser Concert, quote unquote, shooting star is the name of this particular image. And it is, also has like a little like blip here on the back. And just to emphasize again, the geometric nature and the cosmic nature of, oh, thanks for the roses. That's so sweet of you. I appreciate it, Chloe. Welcome to your Daily Dose of DragonFaether. So also when it comes to the geometric imagery and the sacred geometry that they were messing with within the laser shows, this is kind of to illustrate how like that geometry, right, was also mixed with like planetary cosmic type of effects, right? And this is how we got that very esoteric feel. And sometimes they even included like actual like zodiacal image. So that means like they would have a, like the Aquarius sign or all of the zodiac signs, like anyone, like Cancer, Taurus, Aries, Leo, like all of them, right? And also like even like centaurs. We've seen centaurs. There's an image of it on their website, and just a lot of like, you know, mythical creatures and like horses and also just like the cosmic imagery, right? So it says laser graphics ready for hanging, framing, curiosity peaking. Laserium, the world's only cosmic laser concert, is bringing exciting new entertainment to planetariums and domed theaters around the world. A quote-unquote laserist or laser artist choreographs a powerful krypton laser to produce brilliant, expanding images in the purest colors ever seen. And that is not an understatement. Facts. If you've never seen laser light rainbow up close, you've never seen color before, I'm so sorry. We gotta bring it back. But it also says, seemingly third-dimensional laser rainbows float and dance to music under a star-filled sky. A startling, memorable experience, okay? This one was photographed by Dave Terry. Thank you, Dave Terry. Okay, so this one is just absolutely phenomenal, right? So you see a dragon? Yay! That's amazing! See, this is exactly kind of my point, right? When it came to the laser images as a kid, when I looked at them moving across the screen, it's very abstract color and shapes and light, and there was usually stars involved, and sometimes they looked like planets, okay? Sometimes they looked like stars, like shining stars, right? Sometimes they even looked like solar systems, and you know, there were like stuff that were literal spinning stars like this one in a like geometric like star polygon, literally. Or I mean, like they look more like, you know, the stars that you like draw on like the top of like Christmas trees, or that you see in like bling light effects that are just like little crosses, or like 4 like point crosses, or like 8 point crosses. That's, or like 6.2. Those were very common as well to be added within like the laser like effects, which is like the most fun part, right? I want a laser dolphin for my birthday. Well, hey, I got a laser dragon, so that's badass. Laser dolphin is coming next. I think there could even be laser dolphin imagery, actually. I'll try and find you one if there is one. But the purpose is to demonstrate how when you had all of these moving images with the rainbow color and the very immersive like music and synchronized like live demonstration of the laserists, right? They were moving the beams and changing the atmosphere live to the music, is what made it truly like they were performers of their own lineage, their own kind. It is an art form, like, right, like hands down. And it's just so cool to see that like when we have this here, like I actually do kind of see the dragon in this one. Like this looks like the head and the neck, and then it's like body comes out, and this might be the tail after it coils. Maybe this is a hand, maybe that's a hand, like that kind of practice, right? So it's a type of scrying, like it would kind of be called like laser scrying in this instance, really like loosely, if you will, because like you're looking at a laser art image, right? What do you see? This like also kind of reminds me of what's it called? like the ink blot test. Have you guys heard of like those before, where they show you like symmetrical ink blots and then they're like, okay, what do you see? And they ask you what you see. It's supposed to be some kind of mental health test, I believe. That is like a type of interpretative, you know, practice, and it is good for us to do these practices. It's very much a creative type of thing, very much like I have how do you say that? Wow, fail. Nystagmus. So scrying is just existence. I love you, Rebel. You're so awesome. You always make me laugh. But every single laser show was unique and different, and that's what made them so special. And when you saw a really good one and you saw many laser shows, like some of them were just like premium, especially depending on who you had there for your audience, right? That really determined the experience too. And in a sense, when you have that kind of experience, this is not what like this is nothing like a theater in like the movie sense, right? It's very much like its own thing. It has, and because there's no like center figure, usually they actually did do laser shows with many like legends in history who are like in the music industry, and originally it was just the light that was the star of the show, if you will. I've seen the Illumia light show on Kagari, Fraser Island, and it was amazing. Dragonheart, that is amazing. Oh my gosh, I've never seen their shows, but I've heard of them. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you've like actually like experienced it, because they're like absolutely, you don't understand unless you've seen them. I don't know how else to say it. I see a giant salamander or a Gaia monster or a Gila monster. Yes, Gila monster. I love that. See, everyone sees something different. And that's also kind of, you know, what I also wanted to kind of like emphasize when it comes to Laserium as well. Depending on what you perceive, the mind you have, the perspective you have, your kaleidoscope eyes determined what you saw on the wall, what you saw in the light, what you saw in the shapes and the cosmic stars. And that is what made these shows so special. And they are also the longest running like entertainment show in LA, which is insane. Like 30 years, I think. So it's phenomenal. The light shows sound like they could be similar to how some people experience sound, color, synth. I have no idea. I don't have those conditions, but I will say that the color was unlike anything else. It was like you could literally like I could touch it, like, and when I did my laser baths, you could touch it, and that's why we like brought our crystals. And you'll see that's like the most like famous thing that you'll see about like my time at Laserium, because it was so just natural. Okay, like this was actually encouraged in my practice by the environment in Laserium, because they would have these giant like clear quartz crystal clusters like positioned in the front of the like audience to catch laser beams, because they would literally completely illuminate and light up because of the crystalline matrix. And the crystalline lattice, if you hit a crystalline lattice with a heavy enough beam, it does kind of resonate a little bit. And it's not like enough to change the world, okay? Like that's not what I'm claiming. I'm just saying, like, even when you interact with very strong laser beams, some of them are powerful enough to set pieces of wood on fire within seconds. And that was one of the most like popular demonstrations that Ivan Dreyer ever did at this like Laser Incorporated studios. When we did those kinds of laser shows, he would kind of like take a few people back at a time and like show them like as they exited sometimes as well, just like a wooden board going in between like the laser beam before it was like refined and pushed through the system to be like safe for you guys to like interact with in the theater, right? It was crazy to see, you know, because it would just be like 1, 2, 3, 4, it's like it catches on fire, and then he would remove it and he would be like, whoa, and it was crazy, you guys. Like, and to think about that, you know, and see it in real time, absolutely phenomenal, right? And lasers, you know, are so profound in the sense of, like, when you immerse your body in laser light and you like look at laser light on your skin. Oh my goodness, that is the craziest thing. And then, you know, when you're like, you know about like color theory, right? And like how different colors, like we have different colors associated and they invoke different kinds of feelings. And when you just lay on the ground and let the like laser light basically bathe you in like all red or like all blue or like all green and like all rainbow or like all like white light, like there's nothing else like it, you guys. And when I would just like get into a trance-like state, this is kind of where that very experimentational part of the practice came in. These types of rituals were very, they're so isolated because of how unique the laser technology and the laser light experience created this atmosphere, right? Like it was really truly like you were walking in rainbows in the cosmic space because of, you know, well, you have a completely dark room and the only thing that's going to be lighting up your room is laser light or maybe a star projector, you know. And when we did our laser shows at, you know, the Laserium like warehouse after the Griffith shows, I believe we didn't have the star projector anymore from Griffith. And so we used a laser star. Like they had like a laser star like effect as well. So there's just like many different ways that like they would create that like cosmic environment, and it was unique every time, right? Yes, I have a form of synesthesia. Am I saying that correctly? Where I see words as moving colors. Whoa. I also have bilateral dysfunction, so I see double often. It's very similar to the laser shows. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. You know what that reminds me of? Have you guys seen the Laserium glasses? Probably not, huh? I could probably go grab them really quick, but I don't exactly know if I've put them there yet. But anyway, we will definitely bring them back. I'll do a video actually on the Laserium glasses. I'll like make a video with them on my like, you know, altar when they're all like lit up, because basically they turn like a regular light, it like diffracts them into like a rainbow. And depending on how bright the light is, it'll really make it a rainbow. And so you were supposed to like wear these glasses and watch the laser show with them. Many people could not handle them. It made them very dizzy, and I totally understand. But for those of you guys who are able to handle the Laserium glasses, they were amazing. And that's what what you describe with did you say bilateral dysfunction with the double C, like the double sight? That's exactly what that reminds me of. So I think you would be right at home in a laser bath or a laser show for sure. I think laser lights are almost like a metaphor for magic itself. Focused, harnessed energy directed for a specific effect. Also beautiful. See, you get it. Like this is when you're around the laser light and you just really reflect on it, you know, while you're seeing literal laser lights reflect off of beams to create geometrical patterns and cool things in the sky, right? Because like basically laserists would set up their dome basically how they wanted to create the effect for the audience, and that's what made it so like intimate and creative. It was like you were experiencing an art form. Like this is something that's like a live art form, and it's really kind of like makes me kind of think of like mandalas. You know how like they create mandalas out of sand, and then when they're done they like destroy it to like symbolize like everything comes to an end, like life, death, rebirth, you know, like you have to let go. Like this moment isn't built to last. Like it doesn't matter how beautiful it is, like everything comes to pass. And like that kind of wisdom also comes through with these laser shows, because even if you've seen the Beatles show like a million times, like each one was so different and unique and fun, and that is the part that made people keep coming back again and again and again and again and again, because each one was new. And that was just So exciting. And they were constantly, you know, innovating with the technology to create new effects that had never been seen before with lasers. And that's kind of, you know, how we have a lot of our like laser effects today that we see. And that's just like really kind of special when you think about it. But I will say that, like you said, just by reflecting on these, you know, laser images, and just by reflecting on, you know, the color and the cosmic nature and the geometric symbolism, like, and hearing whispers of people chatting like about really abstract concepts, especially when it comes to space and like magic, like you said, and, you know, energy. And there was also just like a lot of people being like, is this place haunted? I'm pretty sure it's haunted. Like, did you see that? Did you experience that? Oh, I totally saw something. No, it doesn't feel right. The room was so cold, right? But we'll get into a little bit more of personal stories at the end of this video. And I'm purely speaking about in a reflective sense. This is a memorial type of video, if you will. So I'm gonna tell you the story as I experienced it, all right? That's like just the truth of the way that it felt, you know, the way that it was lived, okay? So in that time, you know, I was playing my Spyro games, loving Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And of course, just going everywhere with my Dragonology books. Hello, aren't you the Dragon Girl? Yes! Welcome to your daily dose of DragonFaether. How do I say your name? Yokusei? Is that how I say your name? Mary Meet, welcome back to your daily dose of DragonFaether. We're talking about, you know, just some Laserium lore of dragon alchemy and just like the occult nature, the spiritual kind of experimentational magic and philosophy that was being generated in these like experiences, right? So our middle school has a little laser astronomy dome. No way! They give out glasses to enhance the experience. It's wonderful for our children. Oh yeah, bro. Like that is, I love to hear that because that is literally so good for their brains. It's so good for their curiosity, their wonder, and their, you know, creative like inertia, right? Like this is something that constantly the kids were coming to see the Laserium shows, and the kids who left were never the same. Many of them themselves grew up to be their own laserists, or they were innovative with laser technology, or they messed with it somehow, or they were just interested in space after that. It just changed their life, right? Some people were just like, oh no, I believe in God now, or like, oh, I believe in magic now. Like it was just a very profound experience for each person in a very unique way. And that's kind of, you know, what I was messing with when I was like just immersed in that environment, you know. I remember literally reading these books in laser light. Like you don't even understand what these dragons look like, what these dragonology pages look like under laser light. Like the way that it just like, I was like, no, I know this is real. You know, I was like, I have to look at the dragons all over the world. I have to understand why. Why are they here on this map? You know, and all the different types of dragons and the different colors of the scales, you know. There's a page in here specifically that I remember looking in laser light. I'll show you guys. Because the way that color changes in laser light is different for every person, right? So everyone sees color differently, by the way. So these scales, whenever you just saw them under different colors of light, would change color too. And so it was just so much fun. Oh my gosh. And then like you also have like, you know, look at all these like little pieces of the dragon, right? And so when you saw all of this like under laser light and hearing like, you know, like the music, and it was just really sweet that my dad very often, like after the shows, would just like mess with lasers and like let me like hang out and like charge my crystals and maybe do certain questionable things with lasers, but we're fine. Nothing bad happened, okay? So it was a really fun time, you know, because we almost did have some scary experiences in terms of like laser malfunction and overheating, and energy problems, because it is, again, a very volatile science, you know? Like, this is why you couldn't possess certain lasers without a certain license. It's like, it's illegal, like, for a reason. Like, people really hurt themselves when they don't know what they're doing with lasers, and that's why you're not allowed to mess with them. You know what I mean? So please do be careful about that. But there's nothing wrong with messing with just like the laser lights that you can get on Amazon. There's so many of them, okay? Like, those are fine, you know, but like, we're not gonna have these giant explosive, potentially krypton lasers for you to, you know, do laser shows with in your house for some reason, right? But it's just kind of to illustrate a point of how big these lasers were. Like, they took up whole rooms to operate, like, and host the different types of parts and the different gas valves that you had to turn on. Not gas valves, water valves, excuse me, because I used to help my dad start the shows or end the shows sometimes, and it was really cool because they were just like all these pipes on the wall, and then I would like pull the red lever this way to close it or pull up to like open it, right? Yay, fun times, fun times. But it was just like kind of cool to, you know, see how that worked, and then all of the, you know, mirrors that were involved, and the glass, there was lots of glass, but also like colored glass was involved a lot too, as well as crystals, right? Like, and so that's kind of just something that was really fascinating to witness, especially all coming together in a show. Like, it was truly an elemental experience, and all of the elemental energy and the transfer of like heat and states from like hot to cold, right? Like a thermo, I don't know what it's called. It's a type of reaction in chemistry, my bad, guys. But my point is to say that it's like all of this energy transfer and like the elements, like the water and the light being produced and the fire that could be produced from the wood, you know what I mean? Like, all of thermodynamic. You are a badass. Thank you, Usher. We appreciate you. But yeah, so this is kind of where I was witnessing in real time, kind of like elemental interaction while I was looking at my Dragonology books, while I was playing my Spyro games, learning how to get the different elements, like breath powers from the various elemental guardian dragons. And it was like ingrained in my brain, right? Especially with like, what's it called? Pokemon, you know? So growing up, Charizard, my heart and soul, but like Gyarados was like the water one, right? I was like, love you. And then Dragonair, my child. I love Dragonair so much. Being a blue, hold on, TikTok's yelling at me saying, are you a bot? No, a human being, please. Stop judging me. I digress, but you are absolutely right. It is thermodynamic. It's fun just listening to you as I work on writing a book based on my practices in personal pantheon, while also trying to help my nephew make necklaces and bracelets for social projects. Oh, well, that's so amazing, the Aquarian Dragon. Thank you for sharing that with me. That's so much fun. Well, I wish you very much luck in your writing, and will definitely be tuning in to hear you give any updates on that if you're going to share it with us. But yeah, so this is kind of like why dragons have always been like a part of my life, you know what I mean? And I remember like making dragons for my dad, like so young. I would have to ask him how old I was, because he still has them. But it was always just kind of like I was experiencing life through that lens. And as a kid, I would run through the halls with like my little Dragonology Wyvern plushie. If you Google that, you'll be able to see what it looks like. And the wings were like bendable, so I was just like so immersed in that, especially playing with like my stuffed animals and like crystals and stuff in the laser light. Like, that was a very magical environment for a child. And it made me very hard to relate to my peers, basically. And the style of like the dragonology books, the themes of like elemental types with like dragons, right? And like video games and media, as well as like my practice slowly evolving. Like my Book of Shadows is very heavily inspired by that elemental nature, and mostly the style of these books with like the tea-dyed pages and like the here I'll show TikTok as well, with like the tea-dyed pages and stuff. This book is really old, right? But it's just like, that's part of the craft, you know what I mean? Like, people really don't understand how the foundations and the roots of their practice and who they become if they pursue that. And it doesn't even have to be witchcraft, right? It could be any sort of religion or spiritual like inclination. The word I think I should use is like faith-based practice, right? Because that is your unique like experience with just being alive. It's very human to have these experiences. And if you really sit and think about it, and you really reflect on your childhood in your own free time, and you ask your heart and soul, like where do these like core identities come from? You're going to find the roots in your childhood somewhere, I promise you. And you know, even if it's not super explicit in wording or, you know, a structure, it'll definitely be present in atmosphere, mystical like wonder and awe of just like the possibilities that could be. You know what I mean? A lot of it is just little kids being immersed in their own worlds. And it's a very special time for like our creativity to be created. Sometimes, unfortunately though, for lots of kids, hard things happen to them, and it kind of like completely just fractures their brains and their experience and their sense of safety, awe, and wonder. And when that happens, sometimes, you know, children develop a way to be, to save their psyche, you know? And for me, I always felt safe with dragons. Always. And that experimentational transference of energy and elemental states from one to the other, from wood to fire, from, you know, almost explosive energy to cool, calm technology, from darkness to light, from black to rainbow. All of that was, I don't have words to describe it except in the way that I create my art, the way that I create my space, the way that I express myself, and the way that I perceive reality will always be unique to that. And a lot of the laser images that we saw at Laserium, I have another image for you guys now for this part of the story. Trying to keep us on time, right? But a lot of the images, like this one, what's this one called? This one is called Actual Laser Image from Laserium, the Cosmic Laser Concert, quote unquote, Krypton Flower. So this one, as you can see, if I can get all the lights out of there for you, I'll show you guys in a second, YouTube, but see how this kind of looks like a star maybe, or maybe an iris? Does that kind of look like an eyeball to you? Looks like one to me. See what I see? What does it look like to you? To me, it kind of looks like a star, or kind of looks like an eye. I'm really sorry. There we go. Can you see it better now, YouTube? So when we look at this, and there were many different kinds of shapes like this, by the way. So there are many different kinds of circle, eye type of imagery that would constantly move. And that is critical to my personal practice. When I see like the laser light, it always made me think of looking into the eye of a dragon, because the image, while this is a still image, correct? The live shows, see these like lines right here? The reason why you see them as lines in this image is because it was actually spinning really fast in the show. Like, we have the star image here. This one was actually spinning really fast all over the screen, right? So that's why we have this kind of like absolute wild looking image, right? All of these lights and sketchy patterns of color are based off of the star polygon that was spinning, right? That the laserist was using to like spin on the image and moving it in real time sometimes. So this is truly like where that type of like draconic imagery in my craft kind of like started, that like inspired me to base my craft around rainbow light and rainbow color and, you know, the transmutation of elements, and huge focus on planetary imagery and zodiac imagery because it was included in the Laserium experience. And while going to the Laserium shows, like at the planetariums, you would see all of the planets and you would see the telescopes and you would see all of this, and some people would do it all in a night, you know? So that's kind of the experience that would change your life and change people's lives, yeah, including mine, right? It actually made my life and changed my life. For those of you guys just joining, my dad was the chief laserist at Laserium, but the first date he ever had with my mom was at Laserium too. So this is where we come from when we talk about our practice in the sense of dragon alchemy or draconic Wicca or draconianism or the draconic path, or mostly like the DragonFae witchcraft that I do was heavily poorly influenced by this and seeing the different creatures on the imagery, right? And so this is what inspired my imagination to think about the possibilities and the high energy that was created from these lasers activating. Just high energy is like going to excite particles, right? Like anatomical particles. And the air too, right? There's particles like going psh, 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 psh. That's part of what makes it a gas, right? Like the way that the atoms move is just like everywhere, right? So that just gets excited and by the energy of like the laser light, not in any way that's like super profound and measurable. It's a very subtle excitement is the word that I'm gonna use when you're in these like boxes with laser light, especially when you were in like the really small boxes at the Laser Images studios that had these really giant bright beams projected into not the biggest rooms ever. And the light was just so blinding. Like sometimes it was like as bright as day in there, depending on like what color light they were using. But the point is to say, when you saw these images moving on the screen, it was almost like the dragon's eye was like alive, pulsing at you, the way that I experienced laser shows and the way that it influenced my practice, right? This is just my own personal practice. And that's where my craft of dragon alchemy really started, with the light and the perception and the scientific function of energy transfer and how we use energy transfer intentionally to create different like desired effects elementally, right? So we use the electricity, right? They demand so much energy when you plug these lasers in, right? Their cables are giant. You know what I mean? So when you plug them in, right, they generate so much energy to even run in the first place, that when you get these laser beams that can finally ignite raw wood, basically, sometimes even wet wood on fire in like seconds, you're just like, excuse me? That's some crazy stuff, man. But also just like when you hold your own crystals and you put them not in front of the beams that could catch things on fire, okay? That is, do not do that. We're not doing that. But putting the like crystals into the laser beams that were like for the show, right? Because these lasers were much stronger than like anything you can like purchase online, of course. You know what I mean? That's sweet. I hadn't heard that before. No wonder you have the creativity and imagination that you do with who your parents are. Oh, thank you so much. The Dragon's Gridwork Shower? Way Shower? What a beautiful name. Thank you so much for joining your Daily Dose of DragonFaether. But yeah, a spinning eye is exactly what I'm talking about, by the way. Thank you so much for saying that. That's a really like easy way to say it, you know? It was a spinning eye. And this is why I have like dance and spinning is such a huge part of my practice, is because when I saw the lasers spinning like as a kid, like I would spin in the laser rooms and I would spin on the light dancer. Like this is just part of the Laserium culture, was to spin all the time, actually. And actually, now that I think about it, that's probably one of the most unique qualities of like all of the like, you know, witches or magicians that were there. Even the scientists, the philosophers, the people who were just artists and came to see the show, regular people. It changed their perspective, right? There were so many different things being introduced to you for the first time. If you've never seen laser color for the first time, well, there you go. Now you got 3D basically color for the first time and you're like, whoa. And then you have all of these imagery, like that's cosmic and like sacred geometry, right? And if you've never seen that before, spinning all around in front of you, of course that's gonna be like a whoa kind of experience. Some people did actually get so dizzy and overwhelmed they had to leave. I remember that a lot actually when people worked there, especially if they were not sober. It happened a lot. So don't be doing that, guys. You might get dizzy and throw up. But that's part of why, you know, we didn't always want to share that side of the Laserium experience because it was very intimate and human, personal and vulnerable. And when I brought people into my world and hosted group rituals and hosted just like, you know, we called them crystal parties or like laser baths, right? And it would just like be in the studio with the laser light, and my dad would like have the lasers running for me, and sometimes he would like live do the lasers like for like the party basically, which is something that happened a lot actually. A lot of people would book their own private parties with Laserium in the studio. And I would just have to ask my dad if they did that at the Griffith Observatory, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did, because it was like something that was like, of course people wanted to do their birthday parties there. I had one birthday party there actually that was really fun, but unfortunately not a lot of people came to that party, but the people who did, they were the real friends I had back in the day. But that's kind of that's like the fun part of it, right? Because these laser shows were something so unique and so unforgettable and so like you couldn't recreate it. Unrecreatable, is that a word? You couldn't recreate these at home, you know what I mean? And even when you film them, like you've seen the laser like images that I share with you like on TikTok, on YouTube, here, right? Like it doesn't do it justice. Like this blue looks so different in person. I couldn't even tell you. Like it barely shows up on the camera because in person it's like those blue Christmas lights that are like blurry when you look at them because they're like right outside of your visual spectrum, to be honest with you. They're like in that ultraviolet kind of color spectrum. But that's really fun part of laser light technology study as well, is how different the light colors are and how they, on a scientific level, like the wavelengths of color operate and interact, and the math about that is really cool. Wait, I think I remember you a long time ago. I watched you live. Hell yeah! Welcome back to your daily dose of DragonFaether LSD trip. You absolutely should sit your ass down for this. Please excuse my language, because we're talking about Laserium shows today, which allegedly, I was there and I know for sure, but allegedly, I think, maybe jokes, were created for people hanging out with fun guys. Okay, not trying to get demonetized, but I'm pretty sure you can pick up what I'm putting down there. But anyway, welcome back. We're having a real geeky, cheeky, and freaky episode today, just laying it on the table, okay? some real powerful stuff when it comes to just esoteric, occult LA culture, because people would come here and they would interact with this rainbow color of light. They would bring their own, usually people always had crystals on them, even if it wasn't like a random stone. They would be wearing crazy like jewelry and like mystical people, okay? The Laserium shows, like, mystical people loved it. And sometimes Laserium was kind of considered like, what's the most like nice way I could say this, like the black sheep of the planetarium, because of like sometimes the vibes at late night that it would bring, especially for the hardcore shows like Led Zeppelin and Nine Inch Nails, kind of brought wild crowds, okay? And for those of you guys who are unfamiliar with just like LA culture, I wouldn't say underground, but some of it is underground, right? But just like the alternative scene in like Hollywood and LA specifically, when it comes to like rock music and metal music and screamo music and like hardcore and metalcore and like all of that, has a lot of influence with like esoteric, like Satanism, occultism, Luciferianism, Draconianism. What else? We got, you know, Hermeticism. We got, you know, high magic, like just ancient things from like wherever they could find in terms of like esoteric knowledge about like magic and philosophy and stuff. And because of that, these types of ideologies, these types of images, these types of, you know, visual arcs, visual concepts even, were directly derivative, sometimes quite literally, of these depictions in the case of like zodiac symbols or like pentagrams even, you know? So it really is so wild when you look at the Laserium history and you look at the Laserium shows, especially if you've ever experienced one, especially in the planetariums, when you would go up, especially at Griffith Observatory. For those who've never been, just a quick Google search will show you guys that the top of Griffith, all the stars and the city lights are insane together. And it's why in one of my songs I say the city lights are like stars on the floor, because it's absolutely true when you see, you know, just Griffith Observatory at night. And so when you would see these laser shows at Griffith Observatory at night, and then you would go inside the planetarium to go into another dark room with a dome that had more stars and all of this laser light, like, and on the way to get there you saw all the like planets in there and like all the meteorites and then the big giant moon in the back. Like, it was just like really just something so special to experience. And I just remember that being the place where I found my home again, you know, because I was very young when my parents got a divorce. I was like 4 or 5. And I lived in Colorado, by the way. And as soon as my parents got divorced, I moved to California, like Los Angeles, Hollywood, California. And that's where kind of my journey began. I moved out here around like 2000, 2001, I think. I don't exactly remember the right date, but I know it's written on my Patreon somewhere, I'm pretty sure. But it's pretty kind of exciting because like looking back at it, it really kind of showcases that like I really struggled with like, you know, my faith when I moved out to California, being back and forth with my parents with like divided custody. I would go to my mom's to go to school and have like, you know, kind of a normal life. And then when I was with my dad, it was just unpredictable, right? Because he also worked for Line 6, which is like a music technology company who makes like guitars and like amplifiers and like all sorts of things. Like my dad worked on the first pod farm. I really vividly remember that. And other various things too. That was really like the technological engineering like industry of the like music entertainment industry in Hollywood at the time. And so that was kind of the environment that really inspired my practice and really inspired like my perspective of just any religion, because growing up in that environment, everybody from all walks of life were coming to see the shows. They all had different beliefs, you guys, and they all had different religions. And I remember hearing everybody have their own unique perspective of the shows and sharing how it was so spiritual and so personal. And I remember so many nights where people were just so thankful to my dad for performing the shows for them. They were like, thank you so much, Danny. Like, I have never seen anything like that. Like, this changed my life. Like, this, like, I saw God. Like, I see God. Like, so many different things. And if you want to learn a little bit more from my dad's personal perspective, you can check out the Laserium, the Gods of Light documentary. I believe you can see it on YouTube for free, or you can also or purchase it. I don't know, remember, but I know it's on YouTube. So if you just search that, you'll find it, okay? But Danny Nielsen is my dad, and I'm also in that documentary as well, and you'll see me charging like crystals in the laser light with that. And so that was a huge part of the practice as well, because while on camera, what looked most, you know, profound was charging the crystals in laser light, but really I brought many of my magical like items or many of just my tools, including my Book of Shadows, like to just like bathe with me under the laser light. I had my little backpack and I would bring my little stuff, and I had a little like, you know, foldable like seat and like kind of like single bed type of situation, and I brought a blanket so I could like sleep, because I was really young for some of this, and my dad would perform shows till like 2. Sometimes like we would go home at like 3 or 4 in the morning. It just depended on like how it went, you know, because sometimes the shows would run late, sometimes the lasers were just like needed maintenance. Like there was just, you never really knew. And that's kind of like what shaped my understanding of just like planetary dragons, laser dragons, like elemental dragons, draconic elements, and zodiac dragons, and what that looked like, what their eyes looked like. I was like flying through the stars with them, you know, like, and then eventually really flying high in the stars with them. Like, it's just such a core part of just me growing up and discovering who I am. And while I wouldn't necessarily recommend doing some of the things that I did, like, it was experimentational for a reason, right? And this was large in part, some of it was like documented in little glimpses here and there on my YouTube channel vlogs from that time around like 2013 to like 2016 was like those vlogs that you'll see on my channel were like the core of that like experimentational phase and like solidifying my understanding of this type of craft of energy transference and, you know, light and color transmutation and mixing that and what that meant in a magical sense, right? This was just my experience growing up in that time. And that really just emphasized for me like what I wanted to do in my practice, what I believed in. And it was just my personal perspective. Like, I was very young and around people who were constantly decades and decades older than me, who were just absolute like crazy scientists and engineers and philosophers, and, you know, the witches too, who like worked there and were sometimes married to the people who ran the place. And one of them, you know, like even gave me my first book. It's really hard to talk about because growing up they brought so much magic to my life, you know, and because I was so young and they were so old, like all the people that I loved, I watched them slowly decline, you know what I mean? And I remember, you know, just people passing, including Ivan, just breaking my heart, and was a real loss for me on a personal level, right? When, you know, we didn't keep the laser images like studios that I'm talking about, the one in Van Nuys. And that was my childhood, man. Like that was essentially my home with my dad, because we often spent more time at Laserium than we ever did at the house. So yeah, dude, that was just kind of the core of my craft, and I've always been geeky, cheeky, and freaky because of it. Like, that's kind of why we have the, like, you know, the handle that we do or whatever. But, you know, I just kind of wanted to share that experience because it also really informs, you know, like that was kind of like part 2, right? But like part 3, I really wanted to talk about like some of the paranormal experiences, right? So I'm going to show you this last image that I have now before we get to this part. But if we see here, we have our last laser image called the actual laser image from Laserium, the Cosmic Laser Concert, quote unquote square dance is the name of this image. I think it's very funny. This one is photographed by Dave Terry as well. And this one is really cool in the sense of illustrating how many of the laser shows would showcase like the 4 colors of red, yellow, or like as yellow as you can get because it's kind of green here. And then you have blue or indigo, and then you have green. And this really kind of reminded me as well on screen of the elements that I was seeing in my Spyro game and in Pokemon and like Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Because like you have fire, you have like electricity or air depending, you have water, and you have like earth, grass, energy kind of, you know, depending on what game I was playing. And that visual representation with the colors and just the background of the games that I was playing, and you know, the elemental nature of things like a frost dragon and like European dragon were very much contrasted, almost like elemental difference in the Dragonology series. Also the different types of dragons were very much like that as well. Like the different forms of them very early is where I started associating like certain like forms or body types with like certain elemental types of dragons. But that's just kind of like, sometimes I mess with that, sometimes I don't. It's just like not super important to my practice anymore, but it was very early on in me understanding these concepts, right? So that is basically where I'm coming from, and it is honestly so bittersweet to kind of like reflect on because, you know, I really miss my time there. I love making content, you know. But that's kind of the way it is. I'm just getting back into the craft and was searching the Reddits and found you. I will be staying and have sub to thank you for your time. Aw, thank you so much. How do you say your name? But babe, that's cute. Marry me. Welcome to your daily dose of DragonFaether. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you so much, my friends. Wait. No problem, bro. You were doing readings on me. Got it perfectly. Followed and life got better. Seriously. Aw, dude. LSD friend. Trip music? Yes. Dude, I'm so happy to hear that. Congratulations. You deserve. I think I actually remember giving you that. You're not escaping anymore, are you, bro? See, time doesn't exist on my channel. It's kind of like a portal, right? I do my best to remember people. So, I hope that you were doing well. But anyway, that's kind of like one of my fundamental parts of my craft in terms of like also colored light is huge in my dragon alchemy, right? That is like the fundamental basis, okay, is like the colored light and the darkness, right? Like the vibrantly colored light being so expressive in the darkness is kind of like the fundamental of that. And it kind of informed my draconian practice too, with like the rainbow fire, the rainbow dragon fire that was ignited through sometimes laser dragons. So that is like myself on fire with laser dragons. Are you kidding me? But it's just a very unique situational kind of practice, you know, being in Laserium. And I've always been a really strange person and shy about that, and have always had like a hard time articulating it. I rather just show and craft and create about it, if that makes sense, and organize things. I like organizing things and concepts in my journals, and that's kind of how I made my systems and my dragon disciplines and how I interact and understand all the various types of dragons that I work with. And growing up, honestly, like between you, me, and the lamppost guys, like I had a really hard time trying to juggle all these different kinds of types of dragons in like a spiritual sense, like believing in them as if they were spiritual beings, right? Completely changed for me when I interacted with it in like an atheistic way, symbolic way, metaphorical way, like a perceptual lens type of way. Like think of it like they're different kinds of glasses. I know that's so lame. So lame. Dragon glasses, but basically. And so that's kind of the perspective that I have with my personal practice, because it was very much based around the visuals of light and the immersive experience with the artistry in that. And through Laserium, I was just very much exposed to, you know, that Hollywood culture and many celebrities, and many of that was just all around that. And it was just normal, right? That's just kind of something that happens when you're like deep in like Laserium, especially when we did shows at Hollywood and Vine. And when we when like Laserium did like tours with certain bands and stuff and like certain artists, like literally, that was really cool, because that's kind of what started the actual like music festival type of culture that we have today. It was very experimentational back then in terms of entertainment industry here, but it was very much created here. And now is like something that you see whenever you do festivals, and they always got their lasers, you know, because of it just produces that experience. The like rich, vibrant light in the darkness of night is exactly what you need. And so that's how we get it, you know. And the paranormal experiences happened for everybody because, well, you know, their lasers were generating such high energy frequencies. And you're also having so many different people with so many different perspectives, backgrounds, belief systems, working there and walking through and like participating, right? Like just tagging along, hanging out, being around it. And I personally have one story I want to share with you guys to end this video that happened when I want to say it was in 2014, 2015. I believe it was actually around like December of 2014. I was like sleeping. I was like staying the night at Laserium because my dad for a while was actually living there, and there was just like couches and beds there too. Like the Laserium like warehouse shows like literally had like lines of couches for like audience for some of the show, and some of the show had like different types of chairs. It was very kind of like almost like come to our house and we'll give you a laser show. Like I don't even know how else to say it than that. But it was really special because, you know, this environment, when everybody left, there were just couches everywhere, and sometimes like me and my friends and like sometimes my exes and I would like sleep there and stay there. And I remember one night we were staying in the couches in the studio that was like the experimentational studio that was like attached to my dad's like office. So not like the main one that we hosted the shows in, but it was like the office one where they like just like experimented and like where he did stuff, like personal stuff with his stuff. And it was so crazy because I was like minding my own business and like getting ready for bed, and like my ex was already asleep on one of the couches, and I was like getting a blanket and like, you know, just getting ready for like bed. And then I was like laying down for a while, and I just felt like something was I wasn't alone, you guys. Like I was like, what is this? Like I feel like something's watching me. And it was like in the top like upper center part where like all of the laser projectors were like at the ceiling, like pointing down to where like the white wall was painted, because they had like brick walls in there, but they were painted white. So when you projected like laser light on them, it would show up when it was like a dark room. And it was really, really crazy because when you were in these rooms, right, there were no windows in these rooms, and they were showrooms. And so at nighttime, it was pitch black in these rooms, like so dark. The only light you had was your phone or candles or a lighter. And many times many people just had lighters. And I remember like all of the hair on my body like going up, like goosebumps, like just like I was like trembling. And before I made my, actually you guys wait a second, before I made my like Halloween special into the 31 Days of Samhain, we kind of had like a pilot year called Vlogoween. And I think 1 or 2 of those episodes, actually, I have like a Laserium paranormal episode where we're just messing around as like kids, right? But we were like looking for paranormal energy throughout like the Laserium warehouse, and there's some really good footage of the warehouse that I'm talking about in that video. Actually, I'm really glad that I remembered it, subhanallah, because like it's kind of cheesy, I'm not gonna lie, but it's like really cool to see the, you know, the hallways and the environments with the tables that we were in. The room that we were in, all at the square table, was part of this room where we would stay the night and sleep at, because there were all tons of couches, and I'd have friends over all the time and stay there because there were so many couches, you guys, like. And some people were unable to drive themselves home, and so we also offered them a place to stay because we weren't gonna let them do that. We were gonna let them drive, okay? So that's kind of where that happened. And in this like moment where I felt like I wasn't alone, it was so scary. And I was like trying to wake up my ex, but he wouldn't wake up. And then that's where my practice came in, you know. And at the time I was just invoking the Dragon Guardian of Fire, the one that really felt like it protected my space at the time. I was a very young kid, and I didn't have, at that time, I didn't really know if I believed in God because my experience was complicated, but I knew I always had like an inclination towards like monotheism, you know. And in that time, I really developed my craft in a way of like the dragons being guardians, right? Everybody kind of has their own unique experience with how they relate to dragons, but the Laserium environment, especially at the planetariums, and my dad, some of the like scary stories about like his experience at like the planetariums, especially the one in Colorado, like just really scared me. Or the one in like is it San Francisco? There's a planetarium close to there. Scary. so much vibes that are just really creepy, guys. And when you're in those moments, you'll rely on anything that makes you feel safe. For some people, that's Jesus. For some people, that's God. For some people, that's Goddess. For me, it was the dragons and the dragon guardians that were elemental, you know, that I always kind of grew up looking up to some sort of archetype, right? This was how I understood my reality before I really started being able to study like more cultures around the world as I got older, right? So all I had really were these dragonology books and all the different dragons from around the world, right? Like, you know, we have the Tibetan dragon here, you know, that's one kind of dragon. And see, it has like the map on here showing you where it's at. And that's kind of like what really opened my mind to this. Let me find you another dragon. So like here we have like Frost Dragon and Wyverns. Like these are different types of dragons that we see all over the world. You know what I mean? Here we go. Look at all the chicks. See, this is what really inspired like my love of hatchlings and like dragon eggs and all of that. And like largely why we call you guys the hatchlings, right? Because one of you guys suggested it, because like I've always just been obsessed with this stuff. So yeah, guys, that's like really truly kind of like the tragic history, because when we lost this space, like I lost so many people that I loved. I didn't know how to cope with that. And it's a huge reason why I struggled with an addiction. You know, it's a huge reason why I didn't want to like ever share that. It's a very painful personal story. But my magic, my craft, my witchcraft, my dragons, my goddesses and god like figures back then were just for me to feel safe and survive that. And when I lost all of the many elders that I loved and looked up to and had a lot of time, many weekends with, many conversations with, that changed my life, and they were gone forever when I was so young. Like, people don't think like, you know, 17, 18, 19's young. Yeah, it is. What are you talking about? I'm in child activity. And yeah, guys, it was just, I lost kind of like a lot of what kept me alight, if you will. Maybe because I was still alive, obviously, but kept me illuminated, kept me bright, kept me happy and whole. Like, I felt like I had a home, right? And when I lost that and I lost these people, like, I spiraled and I went to very dark places. And if I didn't have a desire to improve myself and work on my craft and practice and do that with dragons and do that with the goddesses too, before I knew anything about, you know, Islam or many of the religions like in detail, right? Like, it was just me trying to understand that. You know, I am still researching, just saw you live and thought I'd pop in, and you will be playing in the background while I do. You have a pretty voice. Oh, thank you so much. You're so sweet. Well, I'm very, very happy that you are here hanging out with us for the Daily Dose DragonFaether late night. Well, it's actually not late night. It feels so late because just, like, the days are getting darker and darker, you know, as we approach the winter solstice, which is why I wanted to do the stream today too, because that was my most favorite part about Laserium, is that in the winter, when it was Christmas and you saw all the Christmas lights and it was getting so dark so early, it was really fun to see every single Laserium show back to back to back with my friends. And then at the very end, we were always waiting because then we would get the room to ourselves and we would get to hang out and play and like practice and maybe do some questionable things. And, you know, just being mischievous children, to be honest with you. But just very experimentational in a time of our life where we were discovering our identity, discovering who we were, what we believed in, what we stand for, our purpose in life, like what it means to be free. Like that was really like that time of our lives. And my favorite part of all of it was the rainbow light and the darkness and the cold outside, shivering, waiting in line to come inside to the tiny little dark room that when everybody was sitting in their seats with huge lasers in the background shooting beams everywhere, it was so warm and cozy, you know, inside, but very, very cold outside. And I wanted to share that, you know, in December, you know, as we approach the winter solstice, because those were my holidays, right? Like, some of my favorite like winter seasons were spent in that Laserium studio. I told myself I wasn't gonna cry. I'm trying not to. It's a really hard story to tell, so that's why I've been kind of teary-eyed, you know, because the way that I had this space to innovate and experience the dragons, this warehouse was huge in some places and you could just feel the dragons come in and feel cozy if you believed, you know. And I'm not claiming things are real on this channel anymore. I'm only here to really share with you what I believe and how my reality changed depending on what I believed. And This is large in part of why I say, if you don't believe in magic, you'll never see it. If you don't have faith in the dragons, well, you'll never experience them. And also, if you don't believe in God, you'll never witness his miracles. Like, it's always just kind of like the faith aspect, right? Like, this is what makes it not a science. It's what makes it like a spiritual practice or a mental discipline or a religious like experience, you know? Like, many people like would go to these shows very depressed in the worst states of their life, have such a profound experience that they completely turned it around and sometimes became really faithful people and became really successful people. Like, it was a huge impact on everybody at the time, especially if you loved the planetariums and you loved like underground, like, you know, alternative culture at the time. It was very much like in line with that alternative culture because of the music they were playing, right? So there was like the Beatles show, there was the Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon show, there was the Led Zeppelin show and the Nine Inch Nails show when we were like at the, what's it called? The Laserium shows at Van Nuys. But there was also holiday shows. So that's like why it was just super cozy, right? Because there was like Christmas ones that had like Christmas music to it. Oh my gosh, you guys. Candy canes, the laser candy canes. But I digress. My whole point is that like this energy, this high energy created to produce this rainbow light, having these rooms full of darkness at night, being around people with so many different perspectives about what's beyond the unseen, what's there that we can't reach, what's in the stars, especially like what's out in space. So many perspectives of what creator is, the universe, all of these like, you know, very, I guess you could say like new age types of thought and very progressive types of philosophy inspired by this environment. That is what generated many people's practices and faiths and very unique understanding of the world and how they experience life and light. And in that experience, it defined many people's lives and who they are and how they feel and what they believe and how they walk this earth. And my favorite thing in this world is meeting anybody who's had these experiences at Laserium, because you just don't know unless you've seen them. And when you ask anyone who's seen these shows, they'll tell you it's one of the greatest things they've ever experienced in their life, hands down, every time. Like, and it's because it is. It's a huge thing, you know what I mean? It's kind of like you never forget going to the amusement park for the first time, you know? Like, it's something so unique and special and exciting, right? Like, and something that you just can't get at home. It's like a rush you can't get at home, right? When you see all of this happening, you're like, wow. Sometimes with the visuals, the way that they moved the stars and the lasers on the screen, it almost looked like you were flying or walking on platforms in the stars, and that was the most immersive part of it. And this created that environment where you were able to really sink into it and be a part of it and just like, who are you with that? Like, it was just self-discovery. Going into that trance-like meditative state within that space, like, it created a safe, like, nest for you to really go within and see who you were. But the most profound part of these experiences is the nature of the way that the laser light was moving in the darkness. Very much reminds me of, like, you know, when you close your eyes, you could see, like, sometimes, maybe if you're one of those people, you could see, like, kind of like color shapes and like behind your eyes. You guys know what I'm talking about? Maybe it's like that, but like to the maximum. Right? It's like turned up all the way as much as you can like see as a human being, right? It's like, how well do your eyes work? Like, we're about to find out. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, in the sense of when you were looking at the laser images to the music, it was almost as if your eyes were closed while they were open. And that, I cannot produce that without a room that is dark, completely pitch, no windows, black walls everywhere, but the screen that is white, sometimes the ceiling. And then, sincerely, you guys, all of these dramatic, geometric, and symmetrical beams in the actual room that were like going into the audience or at the front of the audience. And then the color and the shapes projected on the wall that looked like this, right? Or it looked like this, right? Like when you saw this image on the wall, it was usually giant. Like when you see like a giant like movie theater screen, like bigger, especially at the planetariums, right? So like this too, right? Like see all the stars, like it's literally called shooting stars because the stars were just like spinning and moving all over the screen, and like seeing the math of that, like the lines, the way they move when you take a star polygon and you spin it with laser light, like over, wow, it blew my mind. You know what I mean? They also did like 7-pointed stars sometimes too. And they had like other images too. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm pretty sure, I'll ask my dad, but I'm pretty sure they did a unicursal hexagram as well, which is something that actually comes from like Western occultism. I digress though. So it's just that's kind of like the very basic consensus of it. And I think I actually will be sharing more of this story, like I guess uncensored, probably on Patreon, just because of the very personal nature of it, especially within my journals, because they're very painful to go through, honestly, if I even go through them. Because like I said, my craft was to keep me alive and to help me survive. And that's why the magic that I create and what I offer comes and is like for those people first, right? It's for people who struggle with that first. So we have another one of the shooting star images here. This one is completely out of the plastic because we've reached the finale of the live stream, which is the Laserium artifact. So if you're here right now, you're a cool kid, okay? Shout out to you guys. You get to see a very rare, exclusive primary artifact from Laserium. And the reason why I say that is because, well, it looks like, you know, just a regular image on the screen. Let me show you the difference with this one really quick before I show you the back of this one. So see how this is the same image, right? Same image, right? Same kind of like hard poured plastic, right? They're both kind of like the same board, right? This one on the back, see how it has blank? It's just blank, right? Yeah, you have this little note here, but this comes off with the plastic, and this is just a board on the back. But this one right here is an artifact because let me just cover up the personal information. So this is actually a postcard. You can see it's stained. Yeah, it's got that vintage Laserium stain from rotting on the shelf for like years, right? So this is a postcard that was sent during 2000. We just had someone join asking what's Laserium, so I'm just gonna read the back of the starboard. So you saw how that one had like all of the what's it called? All of the like postcard stuff on it and the like written note. This is like one that you were able to purchase during like the shows. We were selling them for a while. But this is kind of what Laserium is, so I'm going to read it for you. Okay, Emery, welcome back to your Daily Dose of DragonFaether, by the way. It says laser graphics, but it's going to give us a little, you know, summary of what Laserium is. It says ready for hanging, framing, and curiosity peaking. This was kind of like the product that they were selling, right? So it says Laserium, the world's only cosmic laser concert, is bringing exciting new entertainment to planetariums and domed theaters around the world. A laserist, or laser artist, choreographs a powerful krypton laser to produce brilliant, expanding images in its purest colors ever seen. Seriously, if you've never seen like rainbow-colored laser light very close, you've never seen color before. It's so vibrant, so brilliant. I promise you, it's so enriching in its own that it'll change your life. And lastly, it says seemingly third-dimensional laser rainbows float and dance to music under a star-filled sky. A startling, memorable experience. And that it was. Up in Griffith Observatory and in planetariums across the US and the world. They toured in different countries too. It was a show of cosmic laser light, in the sense we had stars projected in the domes and laser light of all colors moving to music synchronized live. And I am the daughter of the chief laserist at Laserium, Danny Nielsen, and he brought me to the laser studios and the planetarium shows throughout my lifetime. I grew up there. It's part of why I have the playlist called The Only Child of Light here on my TikTok. Yes, this is TikTok. So if you want to learn more about it, definitely go check it out there. But this particular, let me cover this up again. I'm gonna actually, let me read this to you guys, because this is the primary artifact, right? So I'm actually gonna show you this really quick. See, it has like this little like kind of information at the top and the little like note. So let me just read it to you guys. It says Krypton laser effect, okay? From Laserium. 3-dimensional laser illusions for live and film video special effects produced by Laser Images Incorporated. And then it has the old address there. And then we also have this part here, which is a time, it's like a stamp of the date. Super happy, subhanAllah, we have a date on here. It says Van Nuys, California. And then it has the zip code. And then it has postmarked 1985, I believe. And it's kind of coming out a little bit smudged. Do you see that, YouTube? A little like a stamp in the circle. You see the little stamp in the circle has the date there, 1985. And that is just truly something so special. And then here in the middle, it says published by Laser Images Incorporated, again with the old address, right? But it's not Laserium anymore. And then here is my favorite part. Okay, so this is the like little message that is from some laserists to whoever it was. It's kind of fascinating, but it says, greetings. Having a great time working with laser beams. Wish you were here working with us on a film video shoot. We even have a humongous studio for your sets and props. Give a call and we'll set up a live demo for you. Looking forward to seeing you. Signed, a couple of laserists that I'm keeping anonymous for their personal privacy. But yeah, guys, it's really hard to talk about this. The people who signed their name on this that I won't be mentioning were people that I really loved, that also just were very kind to me and just very accepting of me, right? As I'm moving things from my mom's to my new home, because there's just a lot of stuff, you know, that I have like in the garage and stuff like that. But there's one stuffed animal of a green like lizard that I got from Ivan that I remember running around in the hallways of Laserium with as a child. It's a very important part of my practice, like part of why I say that I practice tiny craft, which is like a practice that we developed within the Hatchling clan during this time, right? Or like a little bit after this time, I believe. It was like kind of the transition from when Laserium closed and like Ivan passed, and I was like growing out of it, right? It was like when it was like finally like, oh no, it's done now. You know what I mean? And it just like broke my heart. And like that was like the part of my life where it crashed out, because Laserium was just what was keeping me okay. Like things weren't like the best. And sometimes things were really hard there. But like that was my home. Sorry guys. This is a part of my life that I lost, that I grieve every day. Because when I struggled with Mormonism and I was like, I don't know if I believe in God. I don't know about what to believe in. Laserium, I could believe about light. That was real. And I felt the magic in there was real, and it kept me alive, you guys. And when I lost that, I almost lost everything. I almost lost myself. And a few years after that, that's when, you know, COVID happened and everything went into lockdown, and, you know, we did kind of our own thing until now we're here, you know? And that's the story, you guys. Like, may all of them rest in peace. Growing up and watching their health like slowly deteriorate broke my heart. And I want to remember them as the rainbow light that they were. And that's what's real, you guys. It doesn't matter what life you had or where you come from. Sure, you don't come from Laserium the way that I did, but you all have your own unique childhood, your own unique experiences with the world that inform the way you interact with life, the way that you believe. And the most beautiful part about that is sharing your experience and learning about others. And that's kind of like what I really had instilled with me within Laserium, you know, because, well, I grew up there, you know, and that was my home, like I said. And it was almost like an accidental temple of light, to be honest, you know? Funny how the temple of light is built in darkness. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in for today's live stream. It was so much fun catching you guys live again. No one's ever really gone. You're absolutely right, Enrace. So much love to you. But yeah, you guys, we will slowly share more and more of the story. And you can learn more about my personal journey over on Patreon with like the Laser Lightworker tier. It goes into sustaining and making sure that there's maintenance for just keeping the history of it alive. There's honestly, it's kind of dying, which is part of why the grief is so painful. And I'm so grateful that, you know, we have official like publications that are going to come out about the history very soon, and I'm just couldn't be more grateful because like nobody knows, like it's even inaccurate when you search about it. Like Laserium did not stop in 2002, like the shows just stopped at like Griffith in that year, right? Like they were going on in Hollywood and Vine, and they were going on in the Van Nuys studio, and they were going on in I think it was someplace close to San Francisco. There was a planetarium up there. And then also like Colorado, like the planetarium in Denver, like it kept going, you know, like it's really strange, you know, like because like so many people in like the newer generations, they just don't know about it, and that's totally fine. It's totally valid. I mean, how could you know? You can't really learn much about it, you know, like unless you know what you're looking for, and that's kind of the wild part. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to me ramble. And remember, you know, it's really sad to think about just all of the rainbow dark now that a lot of these people are no longer with us, or just like, you know, the studio isn't under like, you know, our ownership anymore. And yeah, just always a very fond part of my heart and my childhood. And thank you for letting me share that with you guys today, because it is truly a tragic part of my life that is the background plot to everything you've ever seen here on my YouTube channel. And I've talked about it many times here and there. So if you do some digging, you can find it, dear Dragon Scroller. But yeah, guys, I had so much fun sharing this with you guys tonight. I am gonna go get some tea and wind down, probably just go rest and hang out with my husband. But yeah, I love you guys so much. Thank you as always for supporting and hanging out and just kicking it. And thank you so much to everybody for the follows and subscribes for this evening. Like, you guys are so amazing spending some of your day with me today. We have our friend saying there are dragons of past who have incarnated in clearing their karma of past Maldic times. We are living in our dens now, but we will rise up, shining and help each other. Rise up and help each other. Oh, that's beautiful, my friend. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, so many dragon blessings. So much love to you guys, and may God bless you guys. I hope you guys are safe and cozy wherever you are in this winter time, or if you're on the other hemisphere in this summertime. But I love you guys. I'll see you very soon. And if you're new here, actually, before I leave, Assalamu alaikum, merry meet, and welcome back to your Daily Dose of DragonFaether. My name's Azura DragonFaether, the Draconic Priestess, and I've been practicing witchcraft for way too long and working with dragons since the 90s. And somewhere along the way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala found me, and now I'm Muslim. So there you go. That's the story, and Laserium is pretty much the consistency through that journey. So I love you guys so much, and I'll see you soon again. But until next time, stay geeky and freaky, little hatchlings. Allah Hafiz, blessed be, and Amin. And don't forget to join the hatchling clan, okay? So we don't get lost, okay? Bye! Love you guys. See you soon!